My name is Ging Tony, and today we'll be reading the Creed of Terry Long. This is Terry, and he is here to humbly wage war on culture. What does he mean by that? He means war on the existential cage that limits our perception of representation, of note here, Asian representation. For starters, he doesn't even know why he's on this panel when he's been fighting for the last year just to get his magnum opus of a second feature film screen, and without fault has been rejected by every possible festival, organization, programmer. Needless to say, mainstreamers can't handle it, but nor can independents, outsiders, weirdos. So when the natural conclusion be that the Asians will have him? Fuck no. And the Asian art scene in Montreal is in the bona fide pits, as currently we don't even have a festival accessible to the Pan-Asian diaspora, because anything we might have had turns white as the nuts in a macadamian cookie. Now, if anyone's thinking, Terry, why are you complaining? Believe in yourself, manifest your destiny. Well, suck it, because he's using these 10 minutes to continue doing that. There's a difference between the ability to be openly vulnerable and lack of confidence. If he lacked confidence, he wouldn't make a 3-hour freaking feature film willed to existence from pure constructive pain, his life savings. Yeah, that's it. Woke hipster culture calls out toxic masculinity, then takes a judgment dump all over someone like him when he's not quite hot enough to appear sad. But without that very necessary open vulnerability, he cannot possibly fight longer than possible, last longer than possible, and channel the confidence imaginable to will to existence art that isn't completely full of horse shit. And it's that very self-deceptive attitude of don't complain, just work hard till they accept you that created the Asian model minority and had them at the mercy of their white/white assimilated oppressors. Terry is built in, pissed off, and those who reject him would have rejected him all along. As if any of these institutions cared that he calls them out, and if they did go, ma, how dare he reject our rejection of him, the wheelbarrow balls on him, then that further proves this systemic perpetuation of put your head down, don't be loud unless you have the prettiness privilege, influence or cult to go with it. Now, all will hold no meaning if at the end of the day, what Terry has to creatively give is absolute ass. To disprove that, search up Open Doom Crescendo on Letterboxd and read the 29 reviews from people he did not bribe of how the film has impacted them. Imagine how impossible it is for an a-hole like Terry to be given the time of day by a wider industry too cowardly to change things from the inside. That's what someone like him is up against. And he can forget plays and faith in the underground exhibits because his art doesn't exist to only be celebrated by hardcore fringe folks. And there's nothing wrong with transgressive art that exists in a silo or a community that is out there. But he does not wish for community art to remain segregated to outsiders while mainstreamers get all the resources and spotlight. And so he exists in a purgatory of being too inaccessible for mainstreamers and too palatable for outsiders. Now spice it up by factoring in race, because why not? There are the Asian artists who communicate their elders' stories to advocate for their reparations and government atonement. There are those with 1 foot back and 1 foot forward, bridging the intergenerational gap between perseverance, past and present. And then there's a second gen delinquent like him who feels like he's got 2 feet too far off the map. The cultural amorphous experience is becoming more and more apparent amongst the Asian diaspora. But while the demographic is able to integrate and thrive despite their identity ambiguity, Terry is banished to the purgatory. But rejection by his own people will always hurt more, disproportionately more. He may have once dubbed them his people, but to them, he was definitely never their people. But Open Doom Crescendo is not here to checkmark your diversity quota. It should not have to spend its entire runtime bringing attention to racial identity, but it will just as much not omit or shy away from the physical, metaphysical nuances of racialized experience. He is not you white/white assimilatees model minority. He is also not you Asians model minority. His hero is a single mom, powerhouse social justice lawyer, leader of the Montreal Chinese community and its allies. His hero is a pleasant bald white gentleman from Connecticut who speaks creatively in reverb. His favorite film director is a sex symbol, Chinese Malaysian kicking ass in Hollywood, making films about mostly white people versus ghosts. And it's that he partakes on both sides, east, west, without submitting to either. He ain't wholesale Western, but he's not going to perform to an Eastern extreme, because not only will he not be true to the sincere positives of his Western life, but he'd be nothing but an Eastern fetish. He does not wake up and brush his teeth with chopsticks or play into stereotypes like being a bad driver. Witness him flex a mean-ass parallel park. He spent 7 years and 29 years completing his life's work, while you didn't bother watching 7 minutes and 29 minutes of his of it, and so instead program some shiny amateur bullshit that you consider more worth your emerging representation media street cred. Every time you tell them not here, maybe try somewhere else, a homeless person rolls in their portable cardboard house. Do these organizations want to be told that the second something more complex and layered comes into from a nobody, they scurry into the fortress of sameness? And are we going to keep living in a society where we ask either, was that Asian enough or was that white passing enough? Does it take yes men and women to be included? Does inclusion equate settling for less or tokenism? Or can you flip off the system and still force that system to acknowledge you? So at this point, if you're not asking why this guy's mic hasn't yet been cut off, you might be wondering, why bother self-sabotaging yourself professionally? Because someone has to make the first moves. Someone needs to be bold enough to not fit in. Someone needs to take the chances that at first only they seem to believe in. Terry can make the moves all he wants, but someone from the inside needs to present them. Curators, programmers, exhibitors, they need to have the wheelbarrow balls as well to change the pattern of apathy and genericness. Terry will blast the cannon, but someone needs to blow the hole in the wall so that the cannon can fly through that hole in the wall of the castle and then blow up and then redo the castle. He won't wait for your permission to exist, but he's here and he dares you not to feel.